My name once more, Mohammed Sani Zorro, representing Gagarawa, Gumel, Suletan Karkar, Omegatari Federal Constituency of Jigawa State. The Honorable Speaker, I rise to seek for the leave of the House to move a motion to suspend the rules of the House to enable me move a motion of urgent public importance matter consistent with Order 8 Rule 4.1 of our standing rules. Honorable Speaker, my dear colleagues, the subject matter is so important because it has to do with the welfare as well as redevelopment of the northeast region that has been devastated by the Boko Haram insurgent war in the last 8 years. It has to do with the urgent need to constitute as well as inaugurate the board of the Northeast Development Commission that was signed into law by Mr. President some 3 months ago, and the fact that it has been a legislative response to the crisis in the Northeast. We feel it is important to finish it. It is not over until it is over. Honorable Speaker, my dear colleagues, I so move.
The motion has moved by the chairman of IDP.
Those in favor of the motion say aye. Those against it say nay. Ayes have it.
Of this motion, ably moved by Honorable Sani Zorro.
This House recalls that it took about 2 years for the National Assembly to achieve the Northeast Development Commission Act, NEDC, from the date of its first reading of the bill and consequent signing of the Act between December 1st, 2015 and October 14th, 2017. This House further recalls that it's now 3 months since the signing into law of the NEDC Act, which was received with great relief and jubilation by millions of internally displaced persons, refugees, and other primary victims of the 9-year-old insurgent war in the Northeast region. The House regrets, however, that the board and management of the Commission have not been constituted thus far, even as the National Assembly is currently considering the financial estimates for MDS and other public institutions for the purpose of the 2018 appropriations of the federal government. Aware that by virtue of the NEDC Act, the Commission is the only federal establishment backed by law and charged with the responsibility of redeveloping the war-torn Northeast region and the simultaneous rehabilitation and resettlement of millions of IDPs and refugees arising out of the insurgent war. Also aware that the concept of the Northeast Development Commission as a mechanism for mitigating humanitarian crisis is consistent with global best practices. The House now resolves as follows: to urge Mr. President to intervene by accelerating the process of constitution and inauguration of the board and management of the Northeast Development Commission in strict compliance with the provisions of the Act. 2, urge the Senate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria to give concurrence to this important motion consistent with the common position of our 2 bicameral legislative chambers and the interests of internally displaced persons, refugees, and other victims of the Northeast insurrection. Requests the committees on legislative compliance of the 2 chambers to monitor and ensure adherence to the provisions of this motion by the relevant federal authorities. Mr. Speaker, I so move.
Second, Honorable Aisha Jibril Duku.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker.
Honorable Speaker, we recall with nostalgia how on December 1st, the first reading of the bill by your honorable self was tabled before the House, and that is for the establishment of the Northeast Development Commission. Now, the bill took about 2 years to process, and now Mr. President gracefully signed it on the 14th of October, about 3 months ago. Now, the bill, we can all recall, was a legislative response to the crisis in the Northeast and is calculated to help in rehabilitating, resettlement of the 2 million or more internally displaced persons as a result of the insurgent war. It is also to take care of our refugees that number well over 100,000 in different parts of the Lake Chad member nations of Cameroon, Niger, as well as Chad. Honorable Speaker, my distinguished colleagues, the other element in the bill is to help in redevelopment of the infrastructure that has been damaged in the 6 states of the Northeast, especially roads, bridges, schools, secretariats of local governments, markets, houses, and so on and so forth, that has been the consequence of that war. Now, it is very clear and understandable that Mr. President, who supervises and superintends over the affairs of this nation, his desk can always be choked up. We can imagine the kind of pressure, the kind of issues that he has to attend to. And that is why we think a reminder of this nature, by way of a motion, for the presidency to accelerate the process of constituting and inaugurating the board in the best interest of internally displaced persons, refugees, as well as secondary stakeholders, is only appropriate. And we also believe that by the concurrence of the Senate, this motion will attract the attention of the presidency and all other arms of government that are responsible for processing it further. It's a straightforward matter. Honorable Speaker, my distinguished colleagues, I beg of you to give approval for this very important motion. Thank you very much indeed.
Of the motion, say aye. Those against it, say nay. Ayes have it.